Another was from Scott. He had allergies, constant allergies that would come every year for years and years and years, and they would plague him through the season. He then took his 1 minute life repair to create the belief, because the belief would be, I'm going to have allergies this season, I'm going to have allergies this summer, that's coming, this spring, the allergies are going to come. And he did the 1 minute life repair to change the belief, and goes through the process, see it, see the new belief, because every belief that you conceive has its perception. Remember, we said what you conceive, you'll receive as a perception. You'll perceive it, you'll receive it. In the ancient tradition of the West, spiritually, it's called the Kabbalah, to receive. So you've got to receive an impression sensorially through the senses. So you see it. So he sees himself in a new way. So first, through the process of what the habitual belief is, his arm goes down, and he sees it, senses it, and feels it in a way that's not pleasant to him. Changes the belief, and has to then reverse the belief. He reverses it, changes it by reversing it to its opposite, and in doing so, he's beginning to remember himself in a new way. And he then creates a new belief, sees it, senses it, feels it, juts his arm out, and does this as a regular process over a period of days to reinforce it. We generally want to reinforce it over a period of 21 days because it takes about 21 days to ingrain a new habit into ourselves. So what does he do? Every day when he gets up, he starts in the morning by saying the new belief, I can breathe clearly. I can breathe clearly. And he sees it, he senses it, a river flowing. So he sees the river flowing, he feels it in connection with this river, the sense of rhythm and the feeling of rhythm, and sensing him being in balance. And he does this every morning when he gets up, just for a few seconds. So he gets up and he sits in a chair. We try to do this sitting in a chair with your back straight, feet on the floor. We'll have this in the workbook in the program to show you what I call the Pharaoh's posture, which comes to us from the ancient pharaonic tradition. Sitting straight up in the chair with your arms in the arms of the chair, feet flat on the floor, back straight. And he keeps his eyes open in this situation. And he says out loud in the morning his new belief. And he says it, he sees it, he feels it, and he senses it. And he juts his arm out strong, because he sees in the original experience we did that his arm becomes quite strong with the new belief. It's quite startling to people to see that the weakness turns into strength, which is manifested in the way the arm becomes stronger. Because here are really the biceps, the triceps, the forearm muscles, which are amongst the most powerful group of muscles in the body. So this is his reminder of the inner-outer relationship and how they're connected to each other. And it also reminds him of his intention. He does it in the morning for 3 seconds. Why? It's homeopathic. A micro input for a macro response. He does it at night before he goes to bed. A micro input for a macro response. That's it. And then during the day, when he comes across, and this is the key that I mentioned before about using the paths of habit that actually do us in and limit us and constrict us, he uses the habit of the everyday life to remind him. So as he's going along through the day, if he has a sudden thought, gee, I'm worried means future talk, I'm worried about the allergies that they may come. I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to breathe. When it comes, because the thoughts habitually come. You could be sitting in your office and you're thinking idly and the thoughts come. You could be in a situation where you smell something or inhale something, as he did, which then reminds him of the difficulties he's had in breathing and so on. When that comes, it reminds him to do the work. Oh, thanks. It reminds me to do the work. It reminds me to do this 1 minute life repair. So I say it, I see it, I feel it, I sense it, and I jut my arm out. I do it all in one motion, one movement, to create a new movement, to create a movement inside, to create a movement of life. I see it, sense it, feel it, say it, and I jut the arm out for no more than a second. No more than a second. You're doing this as a common process in your everyday life. So it goes in the flow of life instantaneously. So he does that, he does that, and then during the morning and the evening when he gets up before going to sleep, he does it. And I would recommend that in connection with this, you could keep a little chronicle of your situation. So you get a little breast pocket notebook. And on the first page, you write 1 minute life repair, and you put in that page your intention. What's my intention for doing this work? Present tense. And then during the course of the 3 weeks, when you notice any shifts, changes, or differences in yourself or in your relation to the world, that something changes for you in the world, that something comes to you that's new or different, or a shift is happening, outside or inside in yourself, you take out your notebook and you make a little jotting, not more than a sentence or two, pithy. And you start it off with, I observe that, I've become aware that, I've become conscious that, I notice that. So you write down your little 1 or 2 sentence comment, no more than that. So you're keeping a chronicle of what's going on with you, and it becomes part of the process of making what's inside outside. So you're making inside and outside join. And that making inside and outside, traditionally through the form of the Western spiritual tradition, is called magic. That's true magic. Making inside outside. That's our freedom. That's what we are born with. We're born with that freedom to make inside outside. It's what we've not been educated or trained to understand or know, because it's not in the interest of the forces that want to keep us down and enslaved or dominated. It's not in their interest that we know how to become free. So we're teaching how to become free, and when you become free, you become alive. And this is a process of choosing the path of life. You're choosing the path of life. So we had a situation where one person did it to lose weight, and she sought to lose weight, and we went through the whole process. What's the image? What's your belief? Well, I'm never going to be able to. I'm too old to. It's not going to happen. I've tried so much, but nothing really works, and nothing will work. So then she changes the belief, because you can't say it unless you understand the opposite. I am losing weight. You can't say I'm not losing weight unless you understand its opposite. It's impossible. So she changes the belief and goes through the imagery of seeing herself pushing herself away from the table, and feels it, senses it, and puts her arm out, because we first saw that the arm became weak when she had the original belief. Changes the belief, becomes strong. For those of you who are listening to this and are going to do this process, you simply can have someone you know or that's connected with you to just gently, as you stick your arm out with your eyes open, to push down when you say the one belief, just to push down gently on the back of your hand to see if your arm gets weak, and then to push down gently on the back of your hand with it jutted out to see if it gets stronger. Make sure when you stick your arm out at first, you keep it as strong as you can, because we want to impress upon you even more emphatically how weak you become when you conceive something that's a miscarriage, and that brings to you weakness in your physical being. So what you believe manifests, what you conceive manifests as a distortion in your physical prowess, in your physical being and your relationship in the world, because as you're weak in the world, you're easily overtaken and subject to the influences of others. So that arm jutted out gives you your intention and gives you your relationship of inside and outside. So a person can gently tap on it. All you need is to have that one experience, because from that point on, you jut your arm out yourself. You don't need anybody else to do that. Don't need anyone else to do that. If you don't want to use your arm to have somebody tap it lightly to begin with, you can use your fingers, and you take the middle finger and the thumb of your strong hand, well, weak hand, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then take the middle finger and thumb of your other hand and circle that loop that you've just made and pull on them. Keep in mind the old belief and see what happens. And generally what happens is that your fingers will come apart. Then establish the new belief, again pull, and you'll see that you can't pull your fingers apart. So that's a way of doing it for yourself without the necessity of having another person. I may mention that all that we're describing here will be described in the workbook, so that the ideas of seeing, sensing, feeling will all be reiterated and fleshed out in the workbook. And of course, also to bear in mind, once you have disestablished the old belief and have substituted the new belief, when you first start this, you don't have to do the old belief again. That's finished. What you're working on is your new belief. The old belief is already been discreated, And so when it's discreated, it no longer has to be thought about when the process is starting to be used in a common, regular, everyday manner. You're only functioning in terms of the new belief. And that's all you do when you get up in the morning, and do it in the morning, do it at night, do it during the day. You're doing only the new belief.